we'll do as we go, because you're up at step 4 now, and we're just beginning step 1.
Yeah, I totally agree, sir.
Okay. When we get to step 4, which is the one where you normally do a lot of writing, or step 5, what it does is it explains it clearly what you have to do. So when you come round to either doing a step 4 or a step 5 with a sponsor, or you go to do a step 4 or a step 5 at all in any style, you will have an understanding of what you need to do. Because one of the main reasons I put my heart and soul into doing basic text workshops and not necessarily doing step working guide ones or stuff like that is because I spent a lot of time in NA being given a lot of direction and suggestions from people who weren't giving me the suggestions which was made by thousands of addicts that got this book together. They was giving me suggestions that worked for them, not necessarily suggestions from the programme. So hence I had a lot of misdirection and made a lot of mistakes, and I questioned myself. For example, I didn't have one of the things we'll get out of this is like when it says, are we sure we want to stop using? Are we sure we want to stop using? One of the things which I knew, I'd actually looked and asked myself, am I sure I want to stop using? Because I've got to get to this place before I embark on a body of work. I need to know, do I really want to do this? I have to ask myself. You can't answer that question for me, and I can't answer it for you. You've got to ask yourself. Did you have your hand on me? Sorry, I thought you had your hand. Cool. Anyone else? Any questions? Cool.
Yes, crikey.
You're on your third question now.
Stop it. That I can't cope with. I can't cope with underlying noise all around the room when we're trying to have a conversation. It puts me off kilter. So I'm just putting that out there.
It's a workshop.
So before the Queen of Gold Step Working Guide came out, this is how it was done then? Before the Step Working Guide came out?
No, right, let's get brutally honest. Before this book came out, which is in 1983, the majority of the people worked from the programme, which was our foundation programme, which was adapted, which came from Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
And it explains a bit later on in this, Jimmy Kinnan wrote a statement a bit later on, was that it worked for a lot of people, but not everybody. It found that there was a lot of addicts who were still unable to do it, so they rushed around in the early 80s to try and get a book together to try and help as many addicts as possible. Because even though a lot of addicts were doing really okay with going through the steps in the Big Book, it didn't quite cover what it says, the depths of emotions and feelings that addicts seem to have. And just to give it my personal experience, I don't know about you guys, but I've never met an addict yet who's not a sensitive bunny. It's one of the first things I see about addicts, and especially when you've got addicts in early recovery, they're really good at throwing a dolly out the pram. They're really, really good at it. And I feel that in myself, because where I did attend other fellowships, and I come back to NA is definitely younger in enthusiasm, as I say, younger at heart, younger in enthusiasm than a lot of the other places, the other 12-step fellowships. It just seems to be that we seem to be more childlike, and I think part of what we learn in our evolution is to become more childlike and mature around our feelings and our emotions, which our steps help us do, because we come in here quite childish. And there's a difference between being childlike and childish. Being childlike, if you look at a young child, is quite a nice, endearing, thing to look at. But childish is a lot more self-centered, a lot more attention-seeking, and you see it all the time from how people share and how they talk when they come to MA. So
can I just
no, you've had your 3 questions.
Have I? I thought thought it was only allowed 2. Why have I had 3? Why am I special?
That's the fourth question.
Let me just compartmentalise it, put it in a little box in there somewhere. So before the Green Gold came out, Step Working Guide,
Was it 92?
it was done sort of through the AA Big Books. Because the first set of steps I went through, I did this with the AA Big Book. I did my first set of steps. So I'm going through the second time now, through the Green Gold.
Okay.
I've not done this before.
Do you want me to
I'm not
answer
very
the question?
knowledgeable about this book, hence why I'm
There's
here.
no question.
There is.
If they've got everything at all,
Yeah, it's just that humming in the background. I can't background noise.
Right.
My concentration is shit, so the background noise I
I
can't.
need to stop it because it's taking up too much time.
Yeah.
What's the question, Jenny? Because I think I know what the question is.
So the
question
question
is, do you want to know about how people work the steps?
Yeah, just through the book, but without Step Working Guide, yeah.
Okay, now what you find is that if you go on the internet, I posted one up on that Facebook page earlier. If you have a look, there's loads of different ways that they've worked out the basic text in the past, and there's loads of different ways that people had taken from the AA Big Book, mixed with the steps in the NA Basic Text, and did the steps. Then there was many organisations that came along, like Hazelden. We have them where if you go to prison, you've got raps. You know, you've got these different ways of different styles that people wrote of how they learned to do the steps. You know, now, when I first was ever taken and introduced into that with Annie Steps was in the treatment centre, and they told me that my step 1 was me just admitting that I used. That's not what it says in the step, but we'll get there. So there are many different ways. There was no concise way for NA until the Step Working Guide come along, but there's still a lot of controversy with the Step Working Guide. So we're back to a basic text, you know, as Archie clearly pointed out earlier. It's a basic text, and the question used to be is, who uses a textbook?
Yeah.
Students use a textbook.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay.
Sorry, I went round the house.
My last question.
Go on.
It's just, I can try and keep up. So, questions in green, pinks, yellows. As we're going through these 2 pages, so as I've just read, that looks green, and then things like the steps are our solution, or that would to me be, is that a must, or is that a choice that we have to say that's a must, or is it a
Okay.
Is that how we do it?
Right.
I would say that's a
That is,
suggestion.
you're exactly right. Now, when you where it comes along where it says, do you want to point out to us where you found that, Natalie? Which is in the last.
I really hope is to live by the example of those who face like an unrequired way out. Well, to me, that would be a suggestion. And the one that says the steps are our solution.
That's
that
in
would be
the.
a suggestion.
Just to get so other people can focus on it. That's in the last paragraph,
Yeah.
the 3rd line up.
Yeah.
Well, what you are is you're spot on. Okay. Now you're spot on with that because the steps, when it says the steps are our solution,
Yeah.
now it's open to debate.
Yeah.
Because
I say that's a direction. It doesn't have a must word.
No, but I mean, I'd say that was, if you want what we've got, do what we do, that's a must.
Steve, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you know, it says our only hope is to live by the example of those who have faced down the way to live. So
A suggestion.
it's kind of,
Direction, yeah.
well, you know, in fact, the word only, to me, says that it's, you know, it's not optional. So it's kind of, it's very strong suggestion.
Anyone disagree with that?
It's like some people would interpret that as a definite, got to do it, but it's just like a strong suggestion, you know.
So do you think it should be colour-coded then, the basic text?
No, I don't think it should be colour coded, but what you're going to do, Natalie, is you're going to make yourself a book which is going to be colour coded,
Yeah.
and when you speak, which is the whole job of this book, the whole job what we do here is when you speak to somebody who's never been here before, never read the book, and you you flip your book open,
Yeah.
what you'll do is you'll go, bang, these are,
Yeah, that's
these are directions, these suggestions that you do for recovery.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
That's what I was thinking.
So when you work with
someone
some-
else and they go pink,
Makes it easy,
pink, you know?
makes it easier for you.
Exactly.
But answer, these are a combination of suggestions and directions.
That's why when we said, I've got you two built up there. That's why what we said, Sadiqa, was we've wasted a good 15, 20 minutes having discussions in the past we learned of whether it's a suggestion or direction. So we thought, forget that. We've just put suggestions and directions together. It's up to us when we're on our own to make our own decision whether it's a direction or a suggestion, because we can haggle over it. But they come into the same category. They're both things you should do or know or understand to maintain recovery. Dean.
Which can't be plotted. Very good, Dean. I'm judging.
Knowledge. Yeah, I've got two things down here, and I'm not too sure. Me and Pete were saying like, I reckon they're questions.
Okay, so where are they?
And it's just where it goes when we were using them. Just below that,
Yeah.
after that sentence goes, we tried to keep out other people from knowing our pain. I feel that's a question that we ask ourselves. By reading that, we're asking ourselves that question. And the one after one is we isolated ourselves. So it's kind of, I'm kind of asking myself that question. Did I isolate
Dean, can
myself?
I ask where that is, please?
It's second paragraph,
Yeah, I've got it. Okay.
second line. Okay.
I kind of see that as
Right.
two questions that I'm asking myself.
Well,
As I'm reading it.
this is good that it's hit in the beginning of this, and it's good that Dean's brought it up. The thing is, it's not a question because it doesn't have a question mark after it.
But I kind of thought you do by reading that you're going to ask yourself that question.
Maybe, but it is not a question.
Is there any of this that doesn't fit
Yeah.
into the category?
Sorry,
There must be loads of this that does not fit into the category.
in what category do you mean?
Into either of these three.
The ones to
Yes, well,
There's lots of text that doesn't fit
yeah,
into any of these three
and this, like, I'll give you an example. If you look at the books where we've done previously before, as we've gone through, sometimes you'll go and you'll see large gaps because it starts to give you information.
Yeah.
That's all it does. The information doesn't necessarily apply to you, but like, for example, it tells you the addict stuff. It says, when we were using, it's talking in general terms. It doesn't mean when Lizzie was using, when Dean was using. It says, when we were using, reality became so painful that oblivion was preferable. Now, if you're a speed freak, you might not go, your term of oblivion might be slightly different to somebody who takes a narcotic or heroin, or like me, really likes heavy downers, you know. The oblivion's slightly different. You still lose your mind, you still lose the moment, you're still not in reality. But the main thing with the identification with that, and this is really important for people, especially if you're working with somebody new, is, and we did this question many times, tell me, is there anyone in this room, okay, that use this example, that this didn't happen to? So if you listen to the line, guys, it says, when we were using, comma, which is the end of one sentence, the beginning of another sentence, reality became so painful that oblivion was preferable.
It's not actually the end of a sentence, it's a pause
Okay,
in a sentence.
pause then if you like.
Yeah, it's a breath, so to speak.
Fantastic.
Okay. Just, like that's called the thesaurus, not the thesaurus. Just putting it out there.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus that question on you, Jenny, and then we're going to bring you down, because what happens is you're doing more talking than the others.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing personal, just everyone gets, that's how we do it. So, I'll see your hand, Archie. Steve's next. When we were using, okay, did this not happen to any of you? Reality became so painful, but that oblivion was preferable. Did anyone not experience that? Okay, good question. Good question. Would you look up oblivion, please? It's a film.
It's a good film as well.
It's a good film, yeah. It's a very good
Quite
film.
it in cinemas, but
Oblivion is a state of being completely forgotten or unknown, a former state of forgetting or of being oblivious, the oblivion of sleep, the act or process of dying out, complete annihilation or extinction.
And that's on the non-mobile phone. Fantastic, Thomas.
Synonyms for that are amnesia, carelessness, disregard, forgetfulness.
Well, what do you get, Archie, in the Collins book?
Ignorance is one of them as well. The state of ignorance. Ignorance, not what you're doing, or what it says here. So,
I wasn't ignoring it.
yeah. Insensibility, got you again.
Sion, stop distracting.
So there's a couple of things that.
Okay, so Steve, you had a question.
A little while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's going back now to
okay.
the question that Natalie was asking, just about the, you know.
Do you want me to pass it to Archie? Okay, Archie. Archie, the spotlight's on you now. What was your question?
Thoughts and observations, yeah, not questions. So in what the stated there is, and what you might want to do is to tell your students, we have been here before with this,
Yep.
large sections of the book are statements or descriptions, right, that you may relate to. So when you do an exercise in who is an addict, some people, because everyone's got different experiences, you may also want to highlight things you relate to. And your experience. That's not in this study of what we're doing at the moment. And then going back to how you used to work with basic text is, so all those statements, so what they would do is they would ask questions based on that, and they'd reword those statements and say, did you ever find reality so painful that you would use to oblivion? And this was you drawing out examples that would make you any denial that you have. So that's how you start building sort of questions for the steps. That's like things that you might relate to from a step work guide.
Are you clear with what Archie said?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good.
Just on that, you know, when we were using reality, it became so painful that oblivion was preferable. I mean, that wasn't like that for me.
Okay.
You know, oblivion wasn't there. I could see my life was going to go down that road. I could see how, if I didn't stop, circumstances in my life would get to such where that would probably be, because I've seen it. And I started identifying my life with what I'd seen in the past. I mean, the day after was painful. The next day I just do it again. But
Well, see, the thing is, if you can hang on to that, because I'm sure that the majority of the room, they will relate to that, but there'll come a time when you'll be relating to some stuff in here, which some of the others might not relate to. Or you might, as it says part earlier in the book, which we read before, you might not have gone down that road of degradation.
yeah.
I can't think of the other word.
Desolation.
Desolation. Dereliction. All those ones beginning with D. You might not have gone that. You might be one of the lucky ones who, you know, there's a statement from a sharer called T, and what she says is that people in NA, they have a tendency to say what drugs they use. Like, for example, just because somebody uses heroin and somebody else has used cannabis, it doesn't discredit the person. The person who used cannabis, that's what they needed to do for them to get to their place of hitting a rock bottom and to get them understand their powerlessness. There's a difference for us, and hopefully it's a bit too big a subject, but hopefully we'll talk about this a bit later, because my experience has been different to a lot of people with a lot of clean time, where I didn't actually stop using until I was 42. I started at 32, but I stopped at 42. And I meet lots of addicts who have been around quite some time, who talk from the pulpit, dare I say that, who stopped using at 19. and we have different experiences around the ages, around powerlessness. So that's another subject which we'll talk about and we'll come to. For some people, and some people didn't necessarily go to prison. Some people haven't been to prison, they don't need to, and some people didn't necessarily get sectioned like myself, but there are others that have been. Was there a question over here? Did Stuart or Dave ask a question?
I've kind of got a question. So, with the highlighting and everything, are we doing that together, or do we just sit there and do it now?
No, what you do with the highlighting,
listening,
guys,
so I didn't know what the
just to make it clear, as practice, what we're going to do is, this bit which Dave read out, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look through that when we go home. We're going to highlight the questions, and we're going to highlight the suggestions and directions. And when we come back here, those of you who do come back here next Wednesday, we're going to try and find out what you've got, what you found in the book. Because as Steve pointed out earlier, which is another good example, we see things differently. Can somebody else, I think, let's take one of you four, can one of you guys give me a suggestion or a direction in that? Can you see one? Lee?
We learn to work the steps in the order that they are written and so use them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I agree with that. Does anyone else agree with that?
Yeah.
That's
Is
a
that-
suggestion. Yeah.
My perception,
It's a
yeah.
suggestion. Yellow.
Okay, so-
No, no. Just,
Sorry, Lee, where was that sentence?
This last paragraph
Yeah.
starts at the end of line 5.
The steps are our solution, they're our survival kit.
Just up
No.
from that, starts with we learn to work the
Learn to not
steps.
stress them, that they are in, and to use them on a daily basis.
See you, Lizzie.
Sorry to get a train.
No worries.
See you next week. Thank
See you next week.
you.
Okay, so basically we've eaten up most of our time. We had a bit of a 10-minute delay, 10-minute confusion before we started. Do you guys want to continue for another 10 minutes and then we'll bring it to close? Or
Yeah, I will.
got to go? Thomas?
Can I just point something out?
Yeah.
There's on the second paragraph, third paragraph, our only hope is to live by example of those who have faced the dilemma and have found a way out.
Yeah.
Is a suggestion.
Is a suggestion.
Yeah.
With a must word in it, Steve said.
Sorry, say that, I can't hear you.
Steve said all these must words.
Yeah, the only is like, it's not,
That's the only task to do for next week.
Yep.
No, it's to answer the questions.
And answer the question.
And answer the question.
How do we
Thanks
answer the
for having
questions
me.
in one word?
yeah.
One word answer, yes or no?
No, that's the answer.
That's the only thing. It's not I'm very strong.
Okay, I'll come to you guys just 1 second. I'll add you on Facebook to the private page if you want.
Yeah.
You don't do Facebook, do you? Okay. I've got your email address, I'll send you the...
I'll give you mine.
Yeah, so anyone who's not on Facebook can give it to me after. You guys, do you reckon you can leave quietly?
What do you do about paying for the room?
Ah, that's a good one.
So,
Tradition 7, it's going to cost us £15 for that. Thank you, Archie. So, pass that round.
What have you done?
You can pay for it if you want, or buy yourself
Can I
one.
get some money? And then I'll give you the rest next week. Maybe you'll next week. Did you come out? I'll give you some money now, I'll give you the rest next week.
Yeah, no worries. That's not a problem at all. See you later. See you next week.
Following week. I'm going to be in Paris next week.
Okay. Do you do Facebook? Do you do Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll join you to the private page so you can stay up. See see, the thing is, I've got so many people.
Well, they want to join, and I've accepted it.
Speak to me afterwards. Speak to me afterwards.
I didn't know I could accept it or say yes.
I've got fibre in there for this.
Pardon?
I've got fibre in there for now.
Okay, cool. So you guys understand what your exercise is before next week? Is to answer the questions. The reason when you answer the questions that you writing it down is for you. I don't care what you write. We'll listen to it as a group, and some of us won't listen. Okay? And that's what will happen. Some of us will not listen, but the exercise of the question is you ask yourself. You write it down so, dare I say, it comes from the hand, you know, from the heart, head to the heart to the hand to the paper. So, anyone got any other questions around
Yeah,
this?
so you know the first,
Please ask.
paragraph, so just because they're questions, I mean, just because they've got question marks, are they questions, or can they be seen as S&Ds as well?
They can be seen as, S&Ds are like that, suggestions and directions, they can be. So it's up to you if you highlight them twice. But the main point of them is that they have a question mark after them, and that's the direction. That's the direction of the grammar, is that it's a question.
Yeah.
So if you think it's also a direction or a suggestion, that's your choice, that's quite rightly so, but in the grammar sense, it's a question. It's asking you something.
Yeah, Frankie, just to ask, I know you've explained the format of what we're going to be
Doesn't
doing
matter.
over the next 6 weeks, 16 weeks. Is this an hour and a half, 2 hours? What's the...
It's an hour.
So it is
We've
an
just
hour,
overspilled.
and
We
we're
started.
just rolling over a little.
We started late and we've overspilled,
Cool.
but it's an hour. And what will happen is, generally around week 3 and 4, we'll find that we'll get it onto pat, we'll get into beat.
Cool.
Hey Thomas.
Now, all these questions, right, for an example,
All of them,
just for an example, right, there's 7 questions,
yeah. It's the biggest lump of questions you'll get in any one go.
right? Now, just for example, I answered yes to them all, right? Okay? Yeah, I answered yes to them all.
Okay.
And now, do I have got an example to these as well?
It would suit you to. You can write as little or as much as you want. It would suit you to.
Yes, no,
You
yes,
like-
no, yes, no.
Like for example,
Yeah, sort of.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could write the answer and then just...
Like, okay, let's give an example.
Reasons why kind of thing.
Do we recognise in the long run, right? You up for hearing this?
Sorry.
Okay. Do we recognise that in the long run we didn't use drugs, they used us? Now, I can say yes to that, but it would really help me, and this is what I've learnt with my step work and I've learnt with working with people, the best way for them to get a deep understanding is I would give an example of that. Do I recognise that in the long run we didn't use drugs, they used us? I understand that because what happened for me was I got up in the morning with diarrhoea and unable to eat my breakfast, but I still managed to get right from the bottom of Whitecross Street into the middle of Oxton with no money, up a 14-flight staircase, score some smack, get it in my hand, and make it all the way back home. It led me like I was a fucking zombie. Now, if I'd have had the gear nearby, or it was coming in an hour, I would have lied there like a person who was too ill to move. It led me. And that's my example, is it would take me from my bed, my sick bed with a bucket next to me, it would drag me all the way up to the Beauvoir to knock on someone's door. It used me, drugs used me like a puppet in my powerlessness. And that's an example I'll give. So, is that, anyone else got any, understanding where that's concerned? The other example is what drugs did to me, the motivation in powerlessness for drugs, for example, was when I ran my nan's house, my hand would go into a bag and into a purse and take money out. It's that statement which normally stupid thing after that to go something I'm not proud of, but it's something which I did for drugs. they use me. So we all have our own private things around that. You okay?